Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're going to give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much going to be a turnkey. So he's going to press start on his computer, and right after we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
It's been 3 different winners from 3 races, with Race Liberante being the newest of the 3, coming out on top at Brands Hatch last week. This week, we travel a few dozen miles northeast to Norwich for round 4 of the PRL GT3 Amateur Series from Snetterton Circuit. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joey Tebben, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Fans of domestic British motorsport will be very familiar with Snetterton already, but for the rest of the world, let's head over to our track guide to learn a little more about it.
Welcome to Snetterton Circuit. Like many British tracks that were born shortly after World War II, this venue was made out of an old military airfield. It's a mere 30 minutes drive from Norwich and offers up 3 different layouts of varying lengths. This means the track is easily able to host international, regional, and club level racing. Previously rather simple, the circuit's most recent update in 2011 introduced a twisty infield section. Still, it's mainly punctuated by 2 very long straights, the Senna Straight, where the pits are located, and the Bentley Straight, which acts as the backstretch. As you'd expect for a track born out of an airfield, there's little in the way of elevation change. However, the one spot in which you do find some undulation, it really stands out. The bomb hole dips cars down in the middle of a quick right-hand kink, causing them to have to keep a heads up lest they lose the car. The track is not without character though. Rich's is very swift for a first turn and includes 2 distinct apexes. There's also the combination of Brundle and Nelson, which forces drivers to turn hard while braking. Never an easy combination to manage. The long sweeping run through Coram down into Murray's can also be quite tricky. The car will want to drift out, forcing a shallow entry into the final left-hander. But failing to give yourself a good exit will leave you vulnerable to attack down the pit straight. Perhaps not as famous as some other British circuits, this place is a bit of a hidden gem in the UK motorsport scene. Fans who get to witness racing here certainly seem likely to return.
And that was our GSRC track guide for the Snetterton circuit here in England. DJ, it's not the most popular track on iRacing. We don't see it that often, but when we do, it's certainly an interesting one. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Joey, it is a track that's a little bit more narrow than what we're used to seeing on the iRacing service. There's a couple of decent overtaking opportunities. We've seen some passes going into Montreal, maybe going on Augustini, and going into the Brundle and Nelson complex. But more than anything else, this is a track where you really have to force your competitors into a mistake to try to get an advantage. The heaviest braking zones aren't really followed by the longest of straightaways, so it gets a little bit tricky. Now, the last sector in particular can be very, very tricky as you see it there coming through Nelson, Bombhole, Coram, and Murray's. It's a lot of sort of trail braking through the corners, trying to get it right, doing the best that you can, and it's really just all about concentration. I do think qualifying is going to be at a premium out here for these drivers when we get ready to get into it, but one way or the other, with as many cars as we have out here, it's going to be one cracker of a race.
And the people who help us to view these crackers of a race are our sponsors. As always, Advanced SimRacing. Our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced SimRacing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum, or should I say aluminium, profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides for many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL GT3 Amateur Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. And as always, we're tracking our drivers' performance in this GT3 Amateur Series. DJ, it's Alexis Demers on top, but it's pretty close on the top.
It is indeed. Demers has that 14-point advantage despite the fact that he has yet to take a win this season, but he's got that courtesy of 3 top 5s. David Flanagan does not have a win either, but he's in a very hot race with Nick McLaughlin. They're only 3 points back, and Race Liberante only 3 points back from him, with Jonathan Almanar only 5 points back. So while Demers does have a little bit of an advantage there, it is certainly not enough to say he's got anything locked down.
And of course, this is only round 4 of 10, but in the team's standings, it's also a battle not quite as close. NTR Motorsport, the team that Alexis Demers drives for, is on top with 170 points. They're followed by RF Delta Sport. Then it's Apex Buttons Box, Parabola Racing, Cobalt, and the SDS Racing team round out the top 5 in the team standings.
And then for the race details today, as we said, this is the GT3 Am Series. We saw the pro drivers out on the circuit last night. Lots of different cars to choose from the Porsche, the McLaren, Ford, Mercedes, Audi, Ferrari, Lambo, and BMW. A little bit more diversity out here today. A lot more BMWs. I think we only had one out there last time. And I see a couple of Mercedes and Ferraris out there as well, which we didn't see. Now, it is a 40-minute open setup race, and that's really where the teams are going to come into play. They're going to be able to work their strategies to make their cars perform best. Drivers are currently out on track for a 10-minute open qualifying session. And now the incident points. You can remember earlier in the season, this was a big deal here. They've raised those points up. 13 incidents will get you a drive-through penalty, and you will get disqualified at 17. Now, that's if you're a bad boy, but if you're good, you get some bonus points. You get a bonus point for the fastest lap. You get a bonus point for pole, and you get a bonus point for 4 incidents or less.
And a track like Snetterton, where the grass is right there, it likes to come out and bite you, so it is easy to accumulate those incident points. Here is our championship leader, Alexis Demers, crossing the line. It's only going to be P3 at the moment, but with 5 minutes left in qualifying, plenty of time for Alexis to improve. It's Nick McLaughlin on pole with a 1:47.7 at the moment, but the fastest time in practice was a 1:47.6, so there's definitely still time out there.
Yeah, and you know, Joey, as opposed to last night's race where we had some relatively cool track temperatures, currently the track temp is 101 degrees. So we may see a little bit of a different strategy from these drivers. They may come out and run a hot lap or two and then dive back into the pits, let the tires cool down a little bit and try it again. There you can see that 40% humidity. Lot of gusting wind out here today, 19 miles an hour of wind. Drivers are going to have to be careful of that.
38 degrees Celsius on track today for our British and European viewers. Don't ask me to translate that into Fahrenheit, because I will not be able to do that. Here's Marc-Andre Desjardins, one of the NTR Motorsports drivers. They're on the top of the team's championship, so Desjardins going to want to help out his teammate Demers up top. Crossing the line, it is going to be a 1:49.174 for Desjardins, but it doesn't look like that lap counted. It looked like he may have gotten a 1X. No, it did count. It did count, and he puts himself 5th on the grid for now.
That's a good time for Marc-Andre. Here comes Zanadakis. This has been one of my favorite drivers to watch during the course of this season. Very, very aggressive, always willing to go for that high priority overtake. He's qualified a bit down in the field in the other races, but let's see if he's got anything here. He's currently 3rd. That's a very, very good qualifying time for him.
One of our independent drivers on the track right now, Nikos Zanadakis, 1:47.9 is his fastest lap. He's in 4th place. He was a little bit higher before he got jumped by John Antonino, but as he comes to the line now, what's it going to be? Is he down in the 1:46s? Not quite. He improves by a whopping 9 thousandths of a second.
Well, it may not be much, but anything will get it there. Here comes RaceLab Apps. He is currently second right now, working his way around those corners, ticking down with just under 3 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Race is going to be wanting to have a good race here. It looks like Morales down in the back was able to improve himself up to 13th. Now, this is that tricky final sequence we talked about. Big chunk of the curve there coming through Nelson. We saw a lot of drivers doing that last night, and they've got to be careful about it.
And typically hopping over curbs isn't the fastest way to go, but RaceLab Apps, a fast qualifying driver through this final very long sweeper, then into the 90-degree left-hander of Murray's, and then he's got to get hard on the throttle down the center straight to the finish line. It's tracking decent. He's in second now. Can he improve to pole? Yes, he can. He takes it by over a 10th.
Great run there for Liberante. We'll have to see if McLaughlin, Antonino, or Xanadakis have anything else. Here comes McLaughlin starting a new lap. It looks like that's that tricky first corner. That is Rich's. It's very akin to the first corner at Hockenheim, where we've seen a couple of these GT cars go out on track. It's not really a heavy braking zone, a little bit more of a sweeper, so not the best way to get a pass done. Oh, up ahead of him, though, Liberante's had a big off. I think that just may end his session.
Yeah, only 1 minute 57 to go. If he brings it back to the pits and has the outlap of his life, he may have a chance, but he's on pole right now, so I don't think he'll be too worried about going back out. But the track may be improving, so every second does matter, and every lap will matter after all. Here's John Antonino in the Delta Sport entry. In that Porsche last night, Delta Sport, they won the GT3 Pro race. Can they go 2 for 2? In the GT3 Am race, it doesn't look like this is going to be good enough for Antonino. Maybe a little bit of an incident on this lap. It's only going to be in the 150s, but this will be his final lap, and this is where it's all going to count for John.
Exactly, and John currently the highest placed Porsche right now. Last night we saw a plethora of those Porsches out on track, and now, as I said earlier, it's really a BMW fest out here. The top three having some good disparity between them. Liberante in the Beamer, McLaughlin in the Ferrari, and Antonino in that Porsche.
Unfortunately, no Fords here tonight, but there is a McLaren, there is a Audi, so I think we've got 7 out of 8 cars here tonight, which is quite the diversity of GT3 cars. That's what we like about GT3 racing on iRacing. Antonino takes a big bite out of the grass going into Hamilton. I don't know if that'll be, oh, well, that'll certainly be a 1X. That's not going to count.
No, it is not, but here comes Brian Vorse as he makes his way around. I believe that's Montreal coming back down. Vorse currently sat down in 9th place right now. Looking down the order, Espina able to move his way up to 13th. He'll be happy with that. Xanadakis calling it a day there. Here comes Parker Muirhead in the Ferrari, currently down in 15th as Marini goes up to 7th.
Muirhead only a 149.9 on his fastest lap, but he's going to cross the line here. He's looking like he may improve. No, 150.7. Parker will have to stay with that 149.9. He's in 16th right now. We'll see if Chet Miller can demote him. Fastest lap at the moment, a 152.3. He's given a couple drivers a draft behind as he comes to the line. Will he improve? No, he goes slower as well. And that driver behind, I don't believe improved either. Here's Lawson Christie, last on the grid right now, a 2:02. Not a telling lap time of Lawson Christie's speed. I believe that was just a lap with a mistake or an outlap. This one is for all the marbles for the number 21 car. Will he get off 25th on the grid? He crosses the line, and he improves 2 spots. He's up to 23rd with a 151.9.
And here comes, I think, one of the last drivers that we're going to see here, Brian Vorse, as he works his way around those last couple of corners. Coming in here, good power down the straightaway. I think this may be a little tight for Vorse. Let's see if he can cross it. He is not able to improve.
Unfortunate for Brian, but a top 10. There are certainly worse places to start a race. I think there's 2 more drivers on track right now. Paul Espina and Baron Hilton are out there at the moment, but I'm not sure if they're on timed laps. Here's Paul Espina. He's coming into the pits. He's not going to go any faster But Baron Hilton, will he come into the pits or will he keep it going? He will keep it going. He's only down in 18th with a 150.4. But as he crosses the line, will he improve? He does by 0.06 of a second. That's not going to get him any more spots, but it's an improved lap time all the same.
It is indeed, and that's pretty much going to set our field for this 40-minute race. Now, one thing we did not mention, drivers will have to take a pit stop over the course of this, so that will come into play.
Indeed it will, and as we wait for the clock to tick down, here is our grid. After all, Race Liberante on pole, nobody else on track to challenge him. He's alongside Nick McLaughlin. Then it's John Antonino and Nico Tsanidakis in row 2. Then Alexis Demers and Jonathan Almanar round out row 3, followed by Lautaro Marini and David Flanagan. And your last row rounded out by Marc-Andre Desjardins and Brian Vorse.
In 11th, it's going to be Baron Glover, followed by Neil Alexander, with Paul Espina and Rodrigo Morales behind him. 15th will be Jason Larson, followed by Parker Muirhead, and the oval driver champion and well known for that, Charles Sumner. He's going to be starting off in 17th. Baron Hilton is going to be 18th, followed by Mark Kalin and Charles Bichelle in 20th.
Of course, Kalin and Hilton, in addition to Sumner, we see them a lot in the PRL Cup Series. They're trying their hand at the road course racing. We love to see that. Rounding out the drivers who did qualify: Kwok Ninh, Guillaume Huard, Lawson Christie, we saw him at the end of the session, Daniel Barnett, and Chet Miller round out the 25 drivers who qualified. But we will also have Danny Cervantes on the grid, Eric Luke, Brett Accord, Matthew Aubry, and Danny Duchesne will be with us as well, but they did not get a time in qualifying. It's a 30 or 29 car field here at Snetterton, DJ. Last night, you could say passing was at a little bit of a premium, but as we move from the pro drivers to the AM drivers, how do you think this is going to be different from what we saw last night?
Well, we tend to see a little bit more aggression here out of these amateur drivers. They tend to go for some overtakes where they may not always be there, and a lot of times it makes for some absolutely spectacular racing, but we also see, obviously, the increased chance for an incident to happen. So I think there's a little bit of give and take up and down the field on that. We're going to have to keep an eye on everybody, but really and truly, I think the guys at the top, Demers, Flanagan, McLaughlin, Liberante, Almanar, Trepanier, all of these guys, they're going to be thinking about points, so they're not going to be as aggressive as we normally think they would.
This may be an amateur series, but there's certainly no lack of skill. Maybe a little bit less experience than the guys we saw last night. These guys know how to put on a good race as much as anybody. As we round through Murray's, the pace car is going to pull into pit road. It's a terrible start from the outside line, and Race Liberante is going to get a huge jump. Third place, John Antonino on the grid is going to come with him, and that's going to be quite the shuffle for the grid.
It certainly is single file for the first couple of drivers there coming through that first corner. Looking in the back, we've already got some guys off. That's Desjardins off into the grass. I also see it looks like that maybe a few other drivers, so some kerfluffle's already happening. But up at the front, Liberante continues to lead from McLaughlin.
Great start from that inside row. I thought Antonino was the one who followed them through, but no, he was in third place, and he had a terrible start, just caught off guard by the way we start on this shortened pace lap. He fell down to 7th, and now he's down to 8th. So we ride on board with Lautaro Marini getting a little bit loose there in the draft of Tsanidakis. But everybody looking pretty clean on lap 1. We saw a little bit of an incident, Desjardins out in the grass, but other than that, seems pretty clean so far.
Indeed, focusing there on Nick McLaughlin, trying to chase down Liberante. A little bit shades of what we saw last week out. You can see the drivers there taking that wide line. A little bit of dust getting kicked up. As we said, they're going to have to watch out for those incident limits, make sure nothing happens. Now, this is the long run down into Brundle and Nelson with that big curve. Looks like McLaughlin may have taken a little bit too much on the outside.
A gap of 4.5 tenths. It's up to 6 tenths now. It is expanding, but once we get to the long Senna straight for the first time, this is going to be where we see potentially a speed difference between Liberante in the BMW, McLaughlin in the Ferrari. We'll see if that plays into this. We'll see how much draft works here. Here's Nick McLaughlin in the draft to race Liberante as we go down the center straight. He's not going to make up anywhere near enough ground to think about a move just yet.
No, he's not, but ooh, that little runoff there from Liberante may provide something. McLaughlin thinking about trying to make a move down into Montreal. Not going to make it happen, though. He is still going to be hot on the heels, though, as he runs a little bit wide on corner exit.
And like we said, every mistake the driver behind will definitely capitalize on. In the grass, that is the 07. That's Nico Sanidakis. He was, oh, that was a very unfortunate rejoin. Got T-boned by the Audi there. He's going to keep it rolling, but there's definitely going to be damage on that thing.
There is indeed. Let's check out the GSRC replay here. This is coming through that first corner of Rich's. Sanidakis looks like he's got everything here. Oh, a little bit of a punt in the back, sends him spinning around, gets off into the long, tall grass, able to get the car back going again, and then we'll see this massive damage that he takes when he gets back onto that unsafe rejoin.
Yeah, it's a hairpin, so it's not the easiest place to rejoin. I tell you what, that wasn't that bad of a rejoin, but the Audi over there locked it up coming into the hairpin and just speared off track and straight into the 07. It's a very unfortunate situation, but I'm not sure there was much the 07 could have done there.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Just a little bit of an unfortunate incident with guys trying to come in a little bit too wide through that corner. Just bad case, bad time for Nico Sanidakis.
But back to live pictures shortly. Here's Matthew Aubrey weaving his way through the chaos, and then nope, there's suddenly a car there. I wonder if he got maybe distracted by that little weave he had to do and just completely missed his braking zone, and unfortunately there was a car parked there. But the race up front, it's still going. Race Liberante, Nick McLaughlin separated about as much as they've been for the entirety of the first 3 laps of this race. McLaughlin not able to catch Liberante, but Liberante not able to get away from McLaughlin either.
No, he is not. A little bit of a poke to the inside there for McLaughlin, just trying to see what it is. And don't count out Alexis Demers there in the background, just trying to keep up a little bit of pace to see what he can do. Demers certainly not out of the picture for this battle for the lead.
Could be a 3-car battle before we know it. Unfortunately, we've already lost Daniel Barnett from the race, and John Antonino, he's not out, but he is in the pits. Baron Hilton, and Baron Hilton's still on track. Nico Sanidakis is in the pits, unfortunately. But behind our leaders, there's still battles going on. This is the battle for 4th. Lautaro Marini and Jonathan Almanar, 6th and 7th on the grid, up to 4th and 5th in the race already. Almanar trying to go for the switchback through Nelson. He has a great run here, but unfortunately, bomb hole not the best of overtaking spots as Marini blinks out just a little bit through Karam. Dudley Karam's own corner, and then Murray's down the center straight. He's close. Almanar's in the draft, but again, just not quite close enough to make the move yet as Race Liberante sets the fastest lap of the race.
And he's been able to extend that gap a little bit. Now riding on board with the 21st placed car of Chet Miller as he tries to hunt down Brett Accord. Chet is one of the only 2 drivers I'm seeing in the field right now in one of those Mercedes. Definitely known as a little bit more of a boat here on the iRacing service. A little bit more understeery than a lot of other cars are, but if you know how to whisper to it, it can do some really, really great things. Oh, and Joey, we've had an incident here with Desjardins, and I believe that's the 62 in the background of, that is Mark Kalin. Looks like going through Montreal, there's been a big kerfluffle.
Mark Kalin, that's his first incident of the race, and Desjardins, he's been in the wars today. He got taken out on lap 1, and we can go to a replay here. We'll see what happened between Kalin and Desjardins. Oh, Kalin in the forest out there. What a
Joy,
weird incident.
I believe that was Sumner that got a little bit squirrely coming off of Rich's. Yeah, that's what it was. That caused Kalen to get loose. Desjardins came into the back of him to try to avoid it and really nowhere to go. Just sort of a domino effect of an incident there between all three cars.
And unfortunately, it ended with 3 cars wrecked in a straight line, but they're still all rolling. Mark Kalen has a little bit of damage. I saw him understeer off into the grass a couple moments ago. Fortunately, down to 25th. We'll see if he brings that thing down into the pits. As we cross the line to start lap number 5, Race Liberante set the fastest lap last time, but Nick McLaughlin, he's fighting back. He just set the fastest lap this time. This battle is still raging on, but McLaughlin, he's probably starting to think, how am I going to get by Race here? The overtaking opportunities are at a premium, and this guy won the last race. He hasn't made many mistakes. So how do you think Nick will have to get by here?
Well, I think what he's got to try to do is just start poking his nose to the inside and the outside whenever he can, seeing if he can, force Liberante into a little bit of a mistake. Almost a mistake there for McLaughlin, going right into the back of Race.
Well, I'd say McLaughlin's turned something on, or Race has turned something off, because McLaughlin is closer than he's been for the entirety of this race so far. He got unbelievably close into the braking zone of that corner, but as we go down the long Bentley straight, he's going to be in the draft again, but the gap, just that tantalizing half a second, not close enough to think about anything. But we go through Brundle, this little switchback. We've seen a lot of mistakes from drivers, and that helps out with a potential overtake, but nothing there yet for McLaughlin.
No, nothing doing yet. Maybe he can get something through Nelson. We saw a couple of times last night, drivers taking a little bit too much of that curve through the Nelson corner. That may be a way for him to force a mistake, but right now, Liberante looking very, very cool under pressure.
We'll look back at the 15th position. There's a heck of a three-way battle going on. Kwok Ninh is in a PRL Cup Series regular sandwich between Charles Sumner and Danny Cervantes. Sumner trying to pull away a little bit after that scary incident with Mark Kalen a little bit earlier. Maybe he has some damage on the nose of that ever-popular Tropicana orange car. I don't think we've seen Cervantes get into anyone, so he's got a fresh car. We know Kwok Ninh has a fresh car, but as we go down the front straight, Sumner, he's got plenty of straight line speed in that thing, so whatever's going on in that car is not hurting him in a straight line.
No, it's certainly not. And trying to keep everything up here. This is a nice little battle there. Almost looked like there was a little bit of wheel spin there from, I think that was Ninh potentially having, but everybody keeping close here. This is really battle of Porsches, all of them.
And there's in the background, that's the Mercedes of Chet Miller, who we just saw taking a journey through the grass. He gets back out in a clean piece of track. Gonna lose a couple positions for that, but no harm, no foul, no damage. But that is one of those pesky 1Xs. Can't be racking them up. The limit's 13 before you get a penalty.
Yeah, exactly. They've got to be careful of it, and we have seen drivers fall afoul of that. Whoa, speaking of falling afoul of that, looks like we had a little bit of an off. I think that may be Charles Sumner. No, excuse me, it's the 98 there it is Charles Sumner getting absolutely swallowed. Whoa, and off again, trying to get off into the grass.
I think they were about 4 wide down the Bentley straight there. Take a look at the replay, and that was absolutely wild. I don't know where that was going. Did Sumner block to the inside? Let's take a look here and let's see how these 4 Porsches all met in the middle.
Well, it looks, a little bit of contact there. I think that was Kwok Ninh that may have gotten into the back of him, and then that caused Sumner to get off onto the grass, and there you see the kerfluffle. Sumner trying to do the right thing there of just getting out of the way, but everybody trying to fight for a very small area of real estate, and that bumps Sumner off again.
Yeah, Sumner just got crowded off the highway there. A bunch of drivers just trying to merge together, and unfortunately, Sumner came off worse than that, but he is still rolling, and he's still fighting back at the back of this train. This battle has not ended yet. Parker Muirhead, or Brett Acord rather, is the new leader of this train, and now the BMW of Danny Duchesne and Lawson Christie as well, trying to join the back of this fight. See who can come out on top. This is only the fight for 13th, but as we always say, every point matters in this series. Every position scores points. As you go up, it's more points. So even if you are only fighting for 13th, every position matters, and these guys are certainly fighting like that's true. Oh, the cord's off. Cord's off.
Oh, that's going to be an off track for him. That's going to send things around. That's going to promote Kwok Nin up into the top of that run.
Fortunately, 5 cars behind him. None of them got into him, but he's got a lot of ground to make up to rejoin this battle. But Kwok Nin gets punted in the back going into Brundle. He gets it slowed down, or does he? Barely. And Danny Cervantes stays behind. He gave him a little bit of help into the corner. Maybe he stuck back a little bit because he felt bad about it. But I thought Kwok Nin was going straight into the grass there.
I thought for sure he was as well, but able to hold it on. Massive kudos. But you can see the damage on the back of that 293 right there. May hurt him a little bit down the front straights.
Well, he's got rear end damage. Cervantes has front end damage, so looks like they evened out here. But Danny Cervantes a little bit better on the brakes. A little bit better of a run through Riches as we come down to the Wilson hairpin. He's going to send the dive bomb of the century to the inside. But will he be able to get a run on the inside? No, it tightens off. He gets some wheel spin, but they're still side by side. So we go down to Augie's. They're not going to be side by side anymore. He falls back in line, and that's going to allow Charles Sumner to be right on the back of this train. Very late in the brakes again, and Nin clips the grass. That's going to be the end of his lead of this little group. Can't be braking on the grass. There's no grip there.
Yeah, I think there was a combination of breaking out onto the grass and a little bit of rear brake locking there that just sent Kwok spinning off into the grass. So very, very tough break for him.
It seems like the lead of that group is cursed, because every time someone takes the lead, they end up going off and falling all the way to the back. The battle for the win rages on. It's been stuck at about 5/10 for the entirety of the race. So we cross the line to start lap 9 of 23. We're reaching the halfway point, so these guys will have to start thinking about pit stops soon. And with as difficult as this pass has been looking, that might be Nick McLaughlin's way by.
It very well may be. Now, on a track like this, the important thing to keep in mind about it is that the biggest thing about trying to come out on these pit stops is getting yourself out into clean air. This isn't like a track like Spa or Monza, for example, where the draft is king. This is really and truly about trying to find some nice clean air where you can run some good clean laps. And so if they're able to find a gap when they pit, it may benefit them to come in for the undercut. But if they wait a little bit and they can get that gap, the overcut may be just as beneficial.
Here's Baron Glover in 9th place. We didn't talk much about him in qualifying, but he had a solid result in P11. He's up 2 spots trying to chase down Neil Alexander, the Parabola Racing driver. It's the Porsche versus the BMW. You can see the positions gained on the side of your screen there. Danny Cervantes, Danny Duchesne, they did not qualify, so it's helped them out a little bit because they were automatically at the back of the grid, but clearly they have pace and they've made up double digits of positions. Brett Accord has as well. He lost a couple spots with a little bit of a mistake earlier on, but double digits from the drivers who didn't qualify. It's worked out for them. They stayed out of trouble on lap 1, and they're going to keep working their way forward to the top 10, I think. Here's Jonathan Almanar. He's another driver who's just been locked in battle with Lautaro Marini. He actually got by Marini on the last lap, but Marini has repassed him and taken 4th place back. Through Rich's, it's just that half a second gap between two drivers. We see it all race here. Almanar later on the brakes, a better braking zone than Marini, but not close enough to go for a move through the twisty intersection. If he's better on the brakes, this is where he's going to make up his time. It's a great run out of Augie's. He's got to be careful, though, on the brakes into Agostini. We've seen drivers lose it, and that wasn't very careful. That is a punt and a half. Lautaro Marini dumped into the grass by Jonathan Almanar.
Yeah, a little bit of a bad faith move there, and now that's going to put Marini and Flanagan into a hot pursuit here. Let's go back and check out the replay on this. This is really just a matter of misjudging that braking zone. Let's watch here. This is Almanar coming in, just tries to be a little bit later on the brakes. You can see he tried to go for that inside move, and it just did not work out. Front fender connecting with rear fender.
Yeah, that was a very late braking maneuver. I'm not entirely sure he would have made that corner, but I believe he did apologize on the radio. So good for him. The battle for the lead rages on. That was almost a mistake from Race Liberante, I dare to say, on the exit of Murray's, and the gap is as close as it has ever been. You see on the ticker on the side, it's down to 0.3. It might be down to 0.2 through Rich's. Race Liberante might be feeling legitimate pressure for the first time in this race. How late can McLaughlin be on the brakes? Pretty late in that Ferrari. It's working out well for him. But the gap has re-expanded back to about half a second. Through Augie's. Again close. Oh, but that's a wide run over the curb and onto the sod. He's going to have to re-rack himself and try and work out a pass again.
Yeah, we're going to jump back here. We've got a pretty crazy battle going on for 15th right now. This is Accord, Christie, Nin, and Bushell. This is a little bit of a remnants of what we saw earlier. Lawson
Christie, he didn't get much practice time. I think he showed up late in the session. He only set a 1:54 in practice. Then he picked up 3 more seconds as he got more track time in qualifying, and now he's up here fighting for 15th, so good stuff from Lawson as he's in the middle of a sandwich with Brett Accord and Kwok Nin. Sumner a little bit further up the track, Charles Bochelle a little bit further behind on track. See if these guys meet in the middle. A good run from Christie out of the corner, but an even better run for Kwok Nin going down into the hairpin of Agostini. Christie a little bit later on the brakes than Nin, but Nin gets a great run over the curb. He's all over the back of Christie through Hamilton. And it's a better run from Christie through Hamilton. Each driver seems to have their good corner, and that's where the time is made up. And if another driver has a better corner, it's all for nothing. Well, and remember, we are dealing with 2 different car makes here, Joey, and that may have something to do with it. Now, that Ferrari is pretty known as being a well-planted car across the board. Porsche, obviously, rear-engined, a little bit more prone to some oversteer going in there, so that may have something to do with it. But we're jumping here. This is Baron Glover trying to chase down Neil Alexander for 8th place. Pretty equal on the brakes into the Wilson hairpin. But these guys fighting hard for 8th place. Up the road, Paul Espina has about a 3-second gap, and behind them, Brian Vorse is another 2 seconds behind. So these guys kind of in an island of their own right now. But if Glover feels like he has the speed, he's definitely going to want to get by as fast as possible and hopefully challenge Espina. Here's Mark Kalin. He's been in the wars today. Down in 19th or 18th at the moment. He's made up 1 spot. But this train, it's still stuck together. Brett Accord has found his way back to the front of it somehow. He's ahead of Sumner, who's ahead of Bochelle, who is now ahead of Kwok Nin.
Yeah, Nin really trying to put the pressure here on to that Ferrari of Lawson Christie, but just not seeming to be able to catch up as well as he'd like. Ooh, a little bit of a weird line there for Christie. That's going to allow for Kwok to maybe try to think about something going into Hamilton. Not going to do it. He's not going to be close enough right now.
And I tell you what, that is not Charles Beauchel. I got the black Ferrari and the black Audi confused. Charles Beauchel just made a pit stop, so potentially some strategy already coming into consideration. Charles Beauchel has come in. Jason Larson has come in. Everybody else still out on track, so maybe Charles thinks he can pull a little bit of an undercut here on those guys he was fighting with.
Yeah, maybe a possibility. We are ticking down here, under 18 minutes to go. We saw last night that a lot of these guys, whoa, very close there for Kwok Nin. So a lot of these guys trying to push as light as they could into the pit cycle, bringing it down to about 10 minutes to go in the race. Could see a repeat of that here today.
I'm looking at the battle for the lead. I was wondering if there'd be some lap traffic that might come into consideration, and I tell you what, ahead of Race Liberante, the two cars that have pitted, Charles Beauchel and Jason Larson, they're going through Brundle right now, and Jason Larson just had a big mistake. He's very slow ahead of Beauchel. Beauchel's off in the grass now. He spins out of the way, so the leaders aren't going to run into him. He's about 14 miles into the farmland and the grass. But our two leaders are most likely going to reach Jason Larson if they don't pit here. So lap traffic could come into consideration for this lead battle already.
Yeah, and that could be a big problem here. It could also force the hands of the leaders to maybe want to dive into the pits to try to avoid any of that. You know, we can keep an eye a little bit on that gap between McLaughlin and Liberante, holding at about 1.1 seconds right now. So Liberante doing very well. Woo-hoo, very close there. Getting around Chet Miller was Nick McLaughlin.
That did not help McLaughlin at all. Nowhere Miller could go. That pit exit, it's just kind of awkward. But McLaughlin lost a solid half a second in that little endeavor. Baron Glover, again, another driver just glued to the back of another car, but unable to make a pass. There's two long straights here, and we know the draft works, but you have to be about 0.2 of a second in the draft of another car, it seems, to actually make a move work. Here's Lawson Christie once again. The battle rages on for 15th. This is some of the best racing on track. These guys have been swishing around every lap. Kwok Nin, a fantastic run through Murray's. He's going to want to get up back into 15th. He's going to be in the draft of the black Ferrari of Lawson Christie. Down to Riches, turn 1. The Ferrari maybe a little bit of a straight line speed advantage. Kwok Nin, we know he has a little bit of damage on that motor vehicle, and he's going to be susceptible to Mark Kalin, who's going to send it down the inside, but get it slowed down before he can make any contact with Kwok Nin.
It was a little bit of an aggressive move there from Kalin, but I've got to respect it because he wasn't able to make any contact there with Kwok Nin. Did cost him a couple of tenths of time, though, so now they're going to have to see if he can maybe regather that car. In the converse to that, Kwok Nin knows that's where Kalin's going to want to try to make an overtake. Maybe we'll see him go a little bit more defensive on the next lap.
Agostini hairpin, that's going to be one of the best places to make a move, but Kalin got really squirrely and squiggly out of the corner. Kind of compromised his run and any chance of overtake there. Up front, Jason Larson did just let Race Liberante by very nicely, so that's not going to slow him down at all. But Kwok Nin is just streaking away from Mark Kalin here, all over the back of Lawson Christie, not even all over the back of him now. He's going to be clear into Brundle. Will Lawson Christie get the car slowed down behind him, though? Yes, he will. And Kwok Nin clear up into 15th.
It's a good move from there, recognizing the mistake out of Lawson Christie to move himself forward. Now he's going to have to focus up the road. That is Charles Sumner, about 1.6 seconds ahead of him, so a little bit of a gap to make up at this point.
Kalin's turned it back on. We saw him fall back just a little bit on Nin, but now he's all over the back of Christie. riding on board here. Will he make the move? Yes, he did make the move because Lawson Christie pulled into the pits. That's the first pit stop we've seen from some of our higher up drivers. We've also seen Chet Miller come into the pits, Baron Hilton. Drivers are starting to come in. Nobody in the top 15 in the race right now has come in except for Lawson Christie now. With the gap expanding between Liberante and McLaughlin, he's probably going to have to start thinking strategy now.
Yeah, I think that's certainly starting to come into everybody's mind here at this point. Under 13 minutes to go. This is getting to the end of the fuel window, so don't be surprised if we see some more drivers coming in. Oh, that was Neil Alexander having a nice little off coming around bomb hole.
And that's exactly what Baron Glover wanted to see. He was not really able to make the pass on his own, but he just needed one mistake out of Alexander, and now Alexander is under attack from Brian Vorst, trying to capitalize on a mistake. He's going to have a good run. Oh, no, he's not. Alexander comes in. That's the first car of the top 10 to make their pit stop.
I think that's a good call there from Alexander. Come into the pits, get the fuel in the car, let your mind reset a little bit before you go back out. Looks like he was able to hit the box nice and perfectly, so he'll be able to get that service and get out and going. I'm also seeing Rodrigo Morales coming in as well, but a nice little battle shaping up here. This is Glover and Vorse.
I thought Glover was going straight into the back of Vorse, into the hairpin, but Vorse found some track to the outside. They managed to keep it clean, and Vorse up into 8th place for the moment. We'll see how these two compare to Alexander. Once the pit stops cycle out, they might be slowing each other down. I don't know where Alexander rejoined. Is he in clean air, in no traffic land? It looks like he is. So he might have a couple spots on his plate here if these two keep fighting.
Oh, that's exactly why Neil wanted to come in. That's that strategy that I talked about, trying to find some clean air. Now just waiting for pretty much the rest of the top 11 to come in, as well as Sumner, Nin, Kalen. I would expect them here in within the next lap or so.
They're not coming in this time. Liberante, McLaughlin, see Alexis Demers in 3rd, keeps it going straight as well. Next lap car Liberante is going to catch is Lawson Christie, who has made a pit stop. We'll see if Lawson gets out of the way. Lawson is still on the lead lap, so I believe he can defend his position. He doesn't have any reason to let the leaders by, but we'll see the pace advantage from Race Liberante, if there even is one. Lawson's going to be on full fuel. Race is going to be on minimal fuel, so we should probably see him catch Lawson in this twistiest section of the track. It's probably not where he wants to catch him. We'll see if Lawson lets him by anywhere here. He might catch him onto the back straight, which will be great for Race, but not so great for Lawson if he wants to defend his position.
No, and you saw their Race flashing his lights a little bit, trying to let him get out of the way. They go there into the corners. Not looking like it is. I think Race is getting a little bit frustrated there. Also, I can report that Danny Cervantes has come into the pits as well. There we see him getting off of the way, giving Race some nice clean straight.
And Nick McLaughlin is going to be saying some choice words in the cockpit, because while Lawson just let Race by, now Nick has to deal with them in the twistier parts of the track. He doesn't have the straight to his advantage, but we'll see if the two fellow Ferrari drivers are nice to each other as we come through Karam. I tell you what, he might actually catch him down the Senna straight, so he might not lose too much time. Lap traffic pretty equal between the two of them. Well, either come in now. There comes Race, and here comes McLaughlin to cover him off.
All right, so both of our leaders coming into the pits. I've also seen the Kwok Nin made a pit stop as well as Mark Kalen. So let's follow these two leaders here, see if either of them have any problems as they make their way into their stalls. Waiting. Good stop there. That may have gained McLaughlin a little bit of time. He looked faster coming into his stall.
See what happens. He is going to jump him. McLaughlin jumps Race Liberante in the pits, and Race is stuck for a couple extra seconds. I wonder if he took too much fuel, or did Nick take too little?
Well, it was about a 7-second stop for McLaughlin and about a 12-second stop for Liberante, so I'm going to put the blame there on Liberante. That's one of the longest stops we've seen out here today, Joey.
I wonder if he just miscalculated, put too much fuel in the car. But I tell you what, I was questioning McLaughlin's decision to come into the pits at the same time, because you don't usually make 2.5 seconds up in the pits. But what do you know? Never count someone out, and it certainly happened. A 5-second difference between pit stops, and the gap is pretty much flipped as Nick McLaughlin is now up in the lead.
Well, the question here for Liberante is he going to be able to close that down? He's had better speed over the course of the race on average, and he's just going to have to try to go for it here. Following right now here, though, this is a little bit of an out-of-position battle. Alexis Demers has already come into the pits. Baron Glover ahead of him has not.
See if Demers can dispatch of Glover as we get to the front straight. I imagine Glover will come in momentarily. He can't really be out on track for too long. He has to make a pit stop eventually. We come down the Bentley straight. That car's got to be running on fumes right now. Demers trying to chase him down through Brundle. The tires are exactly the same. Nobody's taking tires, so there's not going to be any advantage from that from making a pit stop. But Demers is going to get this spot once Glover pits. It's just a matter of time. Maybe he'll try and stretch it out one more lap. It may be possible. Don't exactly know the fuel limits, and some drivers can save more fuel than others. But Baron Glover, there he comes. Time is up. He made it 33 minutes, but those last 7 minutes, those are the ones that are going to get you.
Yeah, exactly. And I do have to give credit to him there. That is a lot longer than I thought anybody else would be able to make it. So that has really kind of stretched out our field a little bit, but it looks like we've got a good battle. Marini and Espina back for 7th.
Yeah, Paul, well, speak of the devil, Paul's out in the wall, unfortunately. He hasn't had the cleanest of races. He unfortunately hit somebody at turn 1. I believe it was Desjardins, but here through Murray's, I didn't see what happened to Paul. Did he get a little bit of help from Marini here? I think he may have. On the brakes. Yep. And jumps over the curb for good measure. Little touch with the tires. Not too much damage, I wouldn't think, but maybe some damaged hopes for the race as he's lost 3 or 4 spots from that.
Indeed. Focusing here on the battle for 7th, though, this is Glover, Alexander, and Espina as they're starting to close down here a little bit. That's Espina poking his nose this way and that, trying to see if he can find something.
And he's got to be careful not to get too angry here, because we know sometimes angry drivers are not the cleanest drivers, and if he's already been in 2 incidents today, he's got to start worrying about that 13 incident point limit. 2 4Xs, 1 more incident, that'll be up to 12. But Marini all over the grass that time around. Or not Marini, Neil Alexander. Marini's up ahead fighting with Flanagan. David Flanagan, we haven't mentioned him once, I don't think. I thought he was one of the drivers who was staying out on fuel, but no, he's up there completely legitimately 8th to 4th, or rather 8th to 5th now as Almanar has gotten by. This has been a solid race for Flanagan, a little bit under the radar, but maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, sometimes flying under the radar is good as long as you can pick up some points there. Little bit of a blink there for Marini you just saw as he continues to try to chase down Flanagan. That gap coming down to about 0.6 of a second.
And just in the background, you may see a little speck of dust. That's because Baron Glover is the next driver to enjoy a nice little dust bath on the outside of Murray's. Just overcooked it. And that's 2 spots down for Glover, unfortunately. But up front, if you eagle-eyed viewers have noticed, the gap is coming down. So while Race Liberante may have 5 extra seconds of fuel, however many liters or gallons that is in the tank, he is decimating that gap with every lap. And honestly, I'm starting to wonder, is Nick McLaughlin fuel saving? Did he take too little? Is he going to be close?
I think that's a distinct possibility there, Joey. You know, that 7.2 second stop, that is the shortest stop that I'm seeing. And now we're going to have another wrinkle thrown into this. Chet Miller in that Mercedes is going to be right up ahead of your race leader of Nick McLaughlin. We tick down 3 minutes and 40 seconds to go. It is all to play for the top of this field.
And Chet Miller, the last car on the lead lap, he's going to let Nick McLaughlin by, but he definitely had to check up a little bit there through the final corner. Liberante getting a little bit of a double draft from these two cars. But now as we go down to Rich, as he's flashing his lights, he doesn't want to get held up. He gets super loose, sending it through turn one. And that's going to put him straight behind Chet Miller. He's not too happy about that, but I think he only has himself to blame for that big moment.
Yeah, he got a little bit loose and squirrely coming through there. Chet was just trying to get out of the way as much as possible. That's what you want to do, is drive the traditional racing line, make the driver behind you come around. We're going to jump back here. This is Flanagan and Marini, the battle for P5.
Snaking down the back straight, trying to break the draft. The two Porsches. Marini not close enough this time. So we only have 2.5 minutes left to go. This race has flown by. So if you're going to want to make your move, you're going to have to make it quick. Liberante pushing as hard as he can. Marini pushing as hard as he can. The opportunities are diminishing. And there's Paul Espina. I think he overcooked that one a lot, and that's going to allow Neil Alexander to come through. And Baron Glover side by side with Paul. Through Augies, he has to give way. Espina gets through, but down to Agostini. We've seen lots of issues with drivers braking late here today. Glover trying to brake late. Stays out of the back of Espina. Espina spins Alexander through the corner. It wasn't in the braking zone. It was on the exit. Unfortunately, a little bit of a clumsy move. Neil Alexander says, "Are you kidding me?" over the radio.
Yeah, that was a little bit clumsy there for Espina. There wasn't really too much of a gap for him to go for. Little over-eager, I have to say, for the Ferrari driver. Let's watch this again. Yeah, it goes in there. That gap was never going to leave, and just that double tap into the back.
Another unfortunate situation, but I believe we might be on the white flag lap here. Race Liberante, Nick McLaughlin, the gap 1.4 seconds. Paul Espina wrestling with another BMW back here, but we're on board with Race Liberante. This is not the white flag lap. When we cross the line, it will be one to go. So Liberante's got to give it everything he's got. Does McLaughlin have enough fuel? We know Race certainly does. He might have too much fuel. And he was as close as he had ever been a couple laps ago. Made a mistake, lost about 1.5 seconds. He's trying to claw it back. As we go through Nelson, the gap down to 1.1 seconds. Can he get it below 1? Yes, he can. You see that 0 starting the number down the Bentley straight. Will we even get to the line before the white flag? I don't think we have enough time. I think this is going to be the final lap. With only 15 seconds to go, it's going to be a race against the clock through Nelson. Actually, I called the wrong corner name, but this is Nelson. Then we're going to go through Karam. We're going to run out of time. This is the final lap. Nick McLaughlin leads the way over Race Liberante. He's got one more corner to go, and he's got about a second gap through Murray's. He's fine on the brakes. He makes it through. He's going to have enough fuel to bring it to the line, I think, over Liberante. The gap's going to be 0.9 seconds, but it's too much for Race. Nick McLaughlin comes home to take the win at Snetterton, but there's other battles on track that are unresolved. Baron Glover, Brian Vorse, Marini, all still going at it.
They certainly are as they make their way down into Brundle and Nelson. There they go. Forks trying to look a little bit aggressive here. I love that from him, but I think that cost him coming around that high curve. Now they make their way through Bomb Hole. Not gonna be enough. I think this looks like it's gonna stay just about the same as it was. They come out of those final couple of corners.
One more corner to go, no mistakes, and Marini's got a top 6, but I tell you what, it's a great run from Glover, but I don't think he'll be close enough to go for a move in the draft. 6th place for Marini, then Glover, then Vorse. Alexander's going to come home in 9th, and this is Rodrigo Morales. Another quiet run, but from 14th to 10th, Rodrigo Morales will round out the top 10.
Yeah, that'll be a good run for Morales. He'll be happy with that. Here comes Kwok Ninh, who had a little bit of an up and down race across the board for 19th. That's Jason Larson ahead of him. Kwok was running a lot higher up, but very, very persevering run, let us say, for Kwok Ninh.
Yeah, many drivers in the wars in this midfield pack. But Ninh brings it home, and like we say, every point matters. So finishing the race is the least you can do, and he'll be getting some points for 19th. It's better than finishing 29th, and he might not be that happy about 19th, but it isn't the worst it could be. But all the cars have crossed the line for today's race, and we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes to talk to the top 3. Welcome back to Snetterton after round 4 of the PRL GT3 Amateur Series. It was Nick McLaughlin on top with a great pit stop, winning over Race Liberante. Alexis Demers, the championship leader, another podium. I think he might still be up there after today, followed by Jonathan Almanar and David Flanagan rounding out the top 5. Then it's Lautaro Marini, Baron Glover, Brian Vorse. They were stuck together on the last lap in 6th, 7th, and 8th. Neil Alexander and Rodrigo Morales. A solid run rounds out the top 10.
In 11th, it was Danny Cervantes, followed by Paul Espina, who had a very, very up and down race. Parker Muirhead, pretty solid there to come home 13th, followed by Mark Kalin and Charles Sumner. Britt Cord was 16th, followed by Lawson Christie and Jason Larson behind him, with Kwok Ninh, the last driver, finishing on the lead lap, and Matthew Arbery 1 lap down.
And we go down to the used car lot. Chet Miller, Charles Beauchel, Baron Hilton, they were in the wars with an unfortunate pit strategy that didn't quite work out. Marc-Andre Desjardins in a couple incidents today, not all his fault. Guillaume Huard and Danny Duchesne ran into trouble as well. Nico Sanidakis out early. John Antonino punted on lap 1. Daniel Barnett and Eric Luke as well. Not the best of days for them. But someone who had absolutely the best day you could ask for, Nick McLaughlin. Nick, you were running in second place for the first stanza of that race, but that fantastic pit stop, it got you out front, and you didn't look back. You were there for 5 seconds less than Race Liberante. What do you think the difference was?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. And I was definitely looking back because race was mega quick around here today. As for the pit stop, good calculation, I guess. I don't know, maybe you overfueled a little bit. I did try to save while I was behind him, so that could have been some difference. But
it seemed like it was pretty tough to pass out here today. in today's race and yesterday with the pro guys at the same track. Were you thinking strategy from the beginning with maybe the lack of overtaking opportunities here?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple saving spots that you can really take advantage of. So I wasn't gonna get by race on raw pace. So I was definitely just trying to save and jump him in the pits, and it worked out pretty much as planned. So I'll take it.
Certainly did work out for you, and one of the things we don't talk often about in this series, even though there are so many cars, they're evened out pretty much, but are there any advantages you think your Ferrari has over, say, the BMW or the Porsche that seem to be the majority of the field?
Yeah, not really. I think it really comes down to the driver. But honestly, every track's gonna suit each car a little bit differently. Ferrari's kind of balanced overall, so it's not a bad drive. You got to throw it around a little harder to get the speed out of it.
Certainly did come down to the driver today. The next placed Ferrari was 35 seconds back, so if anyone's got this thing figured out, it is definitely you. Before we get you out of here tonight, you have anyone you want to thank for this win?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for broadcasting, and PRL and all the sponsors. I got to give a shout out to TQ Engineering. They put a good Ferrari under me, so if it wasn't for that, I don't even think I would have been up front.
That was your winner, Nick McLaughlin. He's got one on the board and can certainly count him into the championship fight. But our second place finisher, Race Liberante, he may have had more raw pace, but unfortunately, pit stop didn't quite work out. DJ is with Race.
Well, Race, as Joey just said there, the first thing I've got to ask you, that seemed like a super long pit stop in there. What happened, man? Race, do you have a copy?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry about that, boys.
No worries.
To answer your question, yeah, I just I took too much fuel. I used a little bit more fuel, I think, than he did. He was kind of stalking me the whole race, and yeah, I didn't save an ounce of fuel that whole race. So yeah, I felt like I had more pace overall. Once I got some breathing room from him, I was able to kind of pull out a couple second lead, and even after the pit stops, I was able to reel him back in, and unfortunately got caught up with a lap car. And yeah, that is what it is, but I'm excited. Him and I think, are going to be in it to win it for the championship this year, and he's keeping me honest all season long so far, and I feel like I've done the same, so I'm pretty excited.
Well, I mean, I guess to that, did you think without that lap car you would have been able to catch Nick going in there? It looks like you had kind of an outright speed advantage, and was it just that lap traffic that really prevented you?
Honestly, I really think I was gaining on him about 3 to 4 tenths a lap. I just got the gap down to under a second. Was hoping to catch a draft down the straightaway that time around, and I overcooked it, and just the aero push I got behind that lap car just didn't help. And yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. It's racing. It's probably my fault at the end of the day, but I did feel like I had the car to win. I worked really, really hard on long run pace this time. I knew Nick was going to be really strong. He's always there. And I knew if I just had that pace after the pit stop, then I could pull it off. And yeah, just regroup for the next one. And I'm excited for the next track we go to.
Well, that next track is Imola, also not exactly known for the easiest track to pass on, but so you're excited for it. Do you think that maybe the BMW is going to have a little bit of an advantage there?
We'll see. This track was actually pretty tough in the BMW. You know, we had to make some crazy setup changes to make it work. So hopefully Imola is a little bit better on the BMW. We're going to definitely hit it hard testing during the week, but definitely got to thank the whole Delta Sport crew. Obviously the pro guys are killing it too, so the guidance that those guys give us is huge. All of our sponsors at Delta Sport, Get Stuck, Race Factory, Extreme SimRacing, and all the other partners that help us do what we do. Thanks.
Well, there you go. That was Race Liberante, your second place finisher out here tonight at Snetterton. Joey?
Well, that rounds out a PRL GT3 doubleheader at Snetterton. We had the pros, we had the AMs, we had plenty of mistakes and 2 solid wins. Wasn't the easiest to pass, but strategy was very, very exciting, and overall, I say it's been yet another good weekend for the PRL GT series.
I certainly would as well. I said it last night, and I've got to say it again here, that I've got to commend the Precision Racing League for their desire to change things up, this new format, doing absolutely wonderful things for competition.
Well, let's thank our sponsors one more time before we get out of here. ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. RaceLab. It helps you improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at theButtKicker.com. SIMMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the entire team who helped put on this broadcast today, and thanks to our viewers for tuning in. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race for the PRL GT3 Amateur Series is at Imola, July 20th, 8:55 p.m. Eastern. But stay with us tonight, as at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, the Flying Huskies will be back at Imola. DJ will be there too, but he'll be there with Reese Gardner and director Zach Johnson. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Well, for DJ Clark, Ryan Bauer, and Dougie Beard, I'm Joey Tebben. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.